This is an excerpt from a documentary made about stories on the skin or tattoos that students have at the University of Florida. So, listen to the documentary, some instructions will follow all of it, and I want to just give you a little bit of an introduction about this. The reason we will be looking at tattoos, and I'm going to ask you to design your own tattoo or your sticker if you have an objection to tattoos. I don't have a tattoo, but I'll talk about that in a minute. But I want to talk about tattoos because we will be talking about symbolism. And symbolism is something we find in literature where somebody mentions something maybe several times in a poem or a book or a play, and it means one thing in the play, but it also carries a lot more meaning. Like, you could have a dark cloud above, and it doesn't just mean it's going to rain. It carries the meaning that something bad might be about to happen. So that's what symbolism is. So as you can see in this little image here of the fake Bitmoji teacher, there's a little tattoo that she has on her leg. That's me. I don't actually have that tattoo. And it's a woman reading under a tree. And I really like nature and I really like reading. So that's why I picked that. It symbolizes my feeling that both nature and the natural world and the world of books go together to create an understanding of things. And so that's what that tattoo symbolizes to me. I'm going to ask you to create a tattoo or find a tattoo that symbolizes something to you. And you could also just call it a sticker. Again, I understand a lot of people have an objection to tattoos, and it's not something that I've ever wanted for myself. But people who have them, there's a lot of beautiful ones, so no judgment against, and certainly no pushing for anyone to get a tattoo when they turn 18. Just a forum to talk about the idea of symbolism. So let's listen to what some of these students say about their tattoos and what it symbolizes to them. And I'm going to ask you to take notes and write down what the tattoo looks like and what it symbolizes to the person. And if you can get 3 of those written down, that would be great. And we'll be turning those in. Okay, so watch, listen, and take notes.
The tree on my wrist was actually my first tattoo. I had this really amazing Tree of Life necklace, but it broke and it kept breaking. And, no matter how hard I tried to fix it, it just kept breaking. So I finally took it to the local tattoo artist and I just asked him if he would tattoo that as my first tattoo.
I have a tattoo around my left ankle. I'll show you here. They have different skulls. They're all connected, and it's a ring all the way around my ankle. I think at the very least, a person chose what they did for a reason, and there has to be a personal explanation behind it. And even a lot of times, the story behind it changes. Even for my own, at the time, I was kind of rebelling against where I kind of being restricted as a youth. And the skulls I thought were a lot more aggressive and kind of more rebellious than other symbols. So I was looking for something that kind of displayed like inside what I was looking to get out. It changes from what it was then to now, but it's still rebellion to me.
The inspiration that for my tattoo was my dad's name. I wanted something to have with me at all times that reminded me of him. The reason why I got my tattoo on my spine, even though you can't see it, is because my dad was a chiropractor and he was my chiropractor. And the way a chiropractor starts out in their adjustment is they run their hand down the back of their patient to just kind of check the spine. And so it seemed apropos to have his name on my back because, that was important to me. Like, that was our connection, he was my chiropractor, and it just seemed right to have it there. The Chinese tattoo brings me back to Chinatown, and I have a lot of happy memories going into Chinatown. I would go in on Saturdays, obviously the day that I didn't have school, and just hang out with him and, help him in the office and help him with patients.
Well, I'm Mexican. That's my heritage. And I think a tattoo is something obviously permanent on your body. And that's like the closest relationship I think with art you can have. It's like the most personal you can get with art. And so kind of like remember that song, Jenny from the Block? Remember where you came from? Thought it was important to always remember where I came from. And no matter where I go, I'm always going to remember, I'm from Mexico and this is my tattoo kind of a thing.
My tattoo of an Aquarius woman on my back is signifying the strength behind an Aquarius woman. Very symbolic to me. It says a lot of characteristics and personality traits of an Aquarius person. My mother tattoo is very intense. Our relationship has really been really rocky, and ever since I was a little girl, it's a lot behind it. I'm very grateful and thankful for everything she's done. I heard raising a child isn't easy, so I always felt like there was a doubt of love on her side from me, like lack of love. And that was my way of explaining to her that I really do love her.
Deus ex machina is actually a dramatic term, but in literary terms, it means the hand of God is coming into a situation and literally pulling the character out of some depths and letting them move forward, you know, in some completely ridiculous way. And that completely describes my life. Every time I'm going through something terrible, it seems like there's just a little something that helps me get to wherever I need to be, and it's always something ridiculous. I got my clock tattoo because I was in a really abusive relationship, and, you know, it ended 2 years ago. And, you know, I think time is so important, and I wasted so much time with this person, so I wanted to give myself a reminder to never waste time again and to have something beautiful come out of a bad time in my life.
It's interesting to me that they can take, and my daughter too, something for them that's so personal, whether it's a painful thing or a positive thing, and display it for everybody. I don't know that I'd have the courage to do that if I had something painful in my life to put it out there, and I really respect them for having the strength to do that.
I've got multiple tattoos that I've been working on throughout the past 6-7 years or so. It starts up at around my shoulder, runs into my neck, and goes down 3/4 of the way down my arm to just under my elbow. So I've got peace doves to a Hamsa hand, or the hand of God, with a lot of fraternal symbols in there. I've got the Shield of David on my shoulder. I've got the Portuguese crest from the flag on my inner arm. A crucifix with a crown at the top, square and compasses for fraternal organizations, and a lot of my birth natal chart all around my arm on the inside. So it's got a whole motif going, so a lot of different tattoos in one.
My tattoo is a Chinese character for Queen. I chose it because I noticed over the years I didn't treat myself like I ought to. And the idea of Queen is something royal. It's something that just within the word itself, you can hear worth in it and value. I'm learning about Chinese characters and how much depth they house. So I chose a Chinese character as the tattoo. And it's my reminder. It's just my reminder of who I am and how valuable I am.
The one that means the most to me is located here on my side. It is a one puzzle piece. The other 3 puzzle pieces my mom, my dad, and my brother have. And in the middle of the puzzle is my initials. Got L, V, and A. I chose a puzzle because since each one of us have a piece of the puzzle, together we complete the puzzle, just like together we're a completed family.
My tattoo actually says, whatever happens, happens. So it was kind of like a way to embody the nonchalant type of person that I wanted to be, which was like, oh, if I see you on the street, it's okay, whatever happens, happens. So I got Spike Spiegel tattooed on my thigh, and his catchphrase, which is, whatever happens, happens. He's just very, like, smooth and cool and calm and collected.
The reason why I got the Key to Hell concept tattooed on my side is it actually came from a graphic novel that I was reading a few years ago. It was The Sandman by Neil Gaiman. And in the story, this specific chapter, Lucifer is closing up hell. He's calling it quits. So ultimately, he ends up giving up the key to the other character that he's with, which is the Sandman. And that really just struck a chord with me. Even though he was giving the key to the Sandman, it really just seemed like the key to hell lies within every person. I liked it.
The tattoo on my chest is it's a heart that's kind of been morphed into kind of like a fuse between a heart and a lock. I look at it as guarding your heart, not necessarily keeping your heart locked up. but keeping sort of a defense. It's kind of like a defense mechanism, I would say.
My favorite tattoo, well, I have multiple for my grandfather, who was like really special to me. So I have this Sailor Girl that is a recreation of a Sailor Girl he had on his arm on my back. So that was a really special tattoo for me to get. And then the year after he died, on his birthday, I was walking home and this ladybug landed on my leg and it stayed there for the whole walk home. And I just felt like it was like him saying hello to me. So ladybugs have like a really special meaning to me, and I really associate them with my grandfather and like angels. I have this really big one on my back that like I get the most compliments on, definitely, and it's this painting that a friend of mine did. She passed away and it was, you know, really traumatic, and but she was an artist, and so I got one of her paintings on my back, and so that's been like a really nice piece of her to have with me.
My first tattoo that I've ever got is a scroll on my ribs. What it means to me is pretty much anything that you go through in your life, the good and the bad, will affect your life in positive and negative and help you become who you are. I have another one on my back. It is like a yin-yang, but it doesn't look like a yin-yang. It's symbolized that way. And it's a Buddhist tattoo. It's Buddha and Siddhartha on there sitting under a tree. Buddha was enlightened under the Bodhi tree during his meditation, and I wanted to express that because I'm Buddhist.
I have a tiger on my left bicep. I got it way back on when I first turned 18. I really had a passion for the symbolic meaning behind tigers, especially in the Japanese and Asian and Chinese culture. It has a strong resemblance to individuality and strength, and it was something that was really essential when I was growing up, especially as a teenager.
My tattoo is a double interbraided heart. It actually was a doodle drawn for me by a past love back in middle school, and I held on to it all the way through high school until I was 18. And when I finally turned 18, I went against my parents' permission and got it made into ink, and now I have my first tattoo. I actually wrote a poem about my tattoo, and I feel that it's a very personal experience. Everyone has their own story that they need to have told.
My tattoo symbolizes my father, who was actually diagnosed with thymoma cancer when I was in about 9th grade. And he's been battling it ever since. It spread a little bit to his lungs, but I mean, he's a strong guy, so he's been fighting it. And I thought I would get it on my body just so I remember it forever. My tattoo is actually a cancer ribbon on my right shoulder blade, and there are 2 Japanese symbols next to it that mean father and long life. I have a wolf on my left shoulder blade, that means courage, and then an Egyptian god, the Eye of Ra, that means protection and new life.
The first tattoo I got is the one on my back, and I got that one shortly after my grandmother died. And if you look closely into it, there's a piece of music in it that I played before. I'm a saxophone player, and it's a saxophone solo that I played. It's Aria by Eugene Botza. It's a pretty dark, sad piece, so I got that engraved into it if you look at that tattoo closely. The one on my arm is a reminder to myself because I was trying to compose. I was struggling with the piece at the time, so it's just a reminder that no matter what, it's still music.
My favorite tattoo, I would say, is this shark. It was drawn by a marine biologist in the 1800s. And what I thought was kind of really interesting and beautiful about it is people have this concept of science that it's this really rigid, unchanging thing, that it's very concrete, it's very black and white, it's truth and it's false, and that's it. And it's not. So when I found this particular drawing of a blue shark, I thought it was really interesting because it doesn't look anything like a blue shark. And if you look at the species, which has been unchanged for millions of years, it looks exactly the same way it did millions of years ago as it does today, but it was drawn by this scientist who tended to think that like the lens that he saw through was pure truth. And this kind of tattoo reminds me that in my science, I have to remember that everything I'm seeing through the lens of what I know to be true or what I think is true.
The story of my tattoo starts back in 2001 when I was 8 years old. I lost my grandfather on September 9, 2001, who was probably my best friend, who was a World War II veteran. And then 2 days later, September 11th happened. My tattoo is an eagle with an American flag ripping through, kind of representing that since America is a free place, that anybody can persevere. Like even the worst tragedy that happened to this great nation, we were still able to overcome it so well.